G'day guys, how's it going? Jimmy Bags here, and today we're having a gaze at Battlefield 1 again. This will be the last multiplayer video I do, most likely, and then I'll probably do a single player playthrough when the game actually comes out. This is all still in beta. But this is just going to be one playthrough as a scout, showing off most of that, and the boring parts are sped up, the better parts are slowed down. Towards the end of it there'll be a montage of a few clips of other times. But yeah, the K bullets are really handy for taking out light vehicles. They only really annoy the heavier vehicles though. That first shot should have got him. Well, actually it was a bit off, but at least the second shot got him. And this guy, I don't know how he didn't see me, but I somehow managed to just get him. Like a lot of other modern military tactics, the sniper rifle and the role of a scout as a high value target eliminator, and in a sense a terrorist due to the psychological impact they caused inadvertently and sometimes on purpose. This was so bad that if the sniper thinks he might be captured by an enemy, he could discard anything that would identify him as such, because a lot of captured snipers were summarily executed. Counter-sniping became pretty important. However, a well-set enemy sniper would easily get a shot off, just like this one, before being located. So a few tactics that developed to work around this would have been to draw fire using something shiny or reflective, or even raising a helmet out of cover, or attempts to imitate a human-like figure. And then once they've located the shots, or even with the more substantial targets, they could analyse the bullet impact to work out where the snipers are actually hiding, and then take them out with either mortar fire or an armor-piercing round straight through whatever cover they were hiding behind. This unlucky guy, he was the one that I just shot, and I used a spot flare to actually pick him up. Spot flares are really handy for either helping your teammates out in offense or for defending yourself in close quarters. This video is a bit long and I don't have enough to fill in some of the blanks, I'm sorry. Again, I wanted to show that it was all just in one complete playthrough. There are quite a few roles you can assume when playing as a scout class to help your team out, and one of those is high value target elimination. Another one is just suppressive fire for support, or even just counter sniping to take out enemy snipers. A good way to counter snipe is to hide in not obvious positions, and if you've got a teammate or a squad mate, then try and get them to draw fire, or just keep an eye on a few of your own teammates otherwise. And when you see enemy fire, just locate how far it is, judge the distance using a close marker if possible, and accommodate for the shot. You can use the settings to change how far your zero distance is on your gun, but I just prefer to compensate for the shot myself instead of trying to swap halfway through a firefight. This was a bloody lovely shot if I don't say so myself, and the splatter of blood was nice. That guy's name, Leroy Jenkins, that'll be a bit more relevant later on. The scout role was initially carried out by cavalry usually, but in the trenches the cavalry were almost useless and specialised snipers were more commonplace, and they took over the role of scouting rather than trying to waste cavalrymen. The pistols are pretty good close range, but long range they're just a bit of an annoyance. Unluckily I just died there on, I think it was 11 or 12 kills. Not bad if I don't say so myself. I chose this spawn point to try and help to defend it, but it really was the worst choice. And that ruined my KD a little bit. Oh well, things happen. Having the choice of where to spawn is pretty cool actually, but sometimes it does backfire on you. spawning in your teammates when they're assaulting can be really handy, or you can spawn in just as they're getting shot. It does have a bit of a mechanism to prevent that, but it still happens at times. Or you can spawn in on a teammate running across open ground and you're just standing still for an enemy sniper to take out. But yeah, so when the snipers took over the role of being scouts, the needs sort of changed. They still had to be very fit for the mobility factor, but they also had to be good marksmen. They needed to have tracking abilities, knowledge of concealment, and sometimes a lot of courage to hide in no man's land or even behind enemy lines, which is where they would have gotten a lot of their better sniping positions from. I don't know why that guy was standing still on top of the water tower, and I did feel kind of cheap for taking the kill, but somebody had to. Just remember that the suppressive fire from the snipers is some of the most intense in the game, and just one or two shots can leave somebody unable to even return covering fire. I had a beautiful position on these guys. They just could not see me for the life of them, and they easily just took a few of them out. Just missed that guy though. The map reading skills of the sniper were pretty key as well for getting in and out of locations and to provide accurate information of enemy locations for air or artillery strikes. The British at the start of the war didn't really like the use of snipers, as they considered it unsporting and ungentlemanly, as well as doubting if the glass for a scope would hold up under combat situations. I really should have moved then. I don't know why I stayed after that first shot. But anyway, the Germans employed them quite effectively because they produced quite a higher quality of glass that allowed them to actually be useful and endure. Those guys was just annoying me. The recording cut out, so I had to pause for a second before going back for them. Once the British forces actually captured the telescopic rifle, they realised the importance, and they really need to increase how much noise the tanks make, so I did not even hear that sneak right up on me then. Before that, they thought that a lot of the deaths from people sticking their heads up or just being visible were lucky shots. Obviously they realised pretty quickly that they were dead in the sights of a sniper. I stopped in a pretty silly position here, but the guy that killed me was actually using a rifleman, which means no scope, so he got a pretty damn good shot off. I'll have to give him that. As everyone would have heard, the Australians took the scopes one step further with the periscope scopes, using a couple of mirrors to look up over the trenches. They were pretty ingenious, those bastards. But I made a bit of a mistake here, and I hadn't checked for that guy with the machine gun still up on top of that rock, and apparently some people do still like to camp in this, and he's still sitting up there with the machine gun. I would have gotten that bastard in the parachute otherwise. I think I checked for him again, but it's hard to see people up there sometimes. Again, you gotta really think about where you spawn depending on which class you're playing. Here I spawned in the middle of the town, which was not the smartest idea as a scout, and we ended up getting flanked by some enemies after shooting out with two enemies up in that building. So I couldn't really do much there, and yeah, unless you're using the rifleman version of the guns, it's best to just stick to long range. They really aren't that useful in close range. The pistols are alright, but again, one clip to kill one person pretty much, unless you get some really good shots off, so you can't really rely on it. It didn't take long until the role of a spotter was deemed necessary to assist the main sniper, and they were also fully trained in how to use the sniper rifle and everything. I mean, this is more modern stuff, but the ideas of it came from back in the day. And they would also confirm the kills and help with locating the targets. Said that name would come in handy later if you paid attention. The main other role of the spotter, when they weren't obviously being the main sniper themselves, was to assist with close quarter defence. Quite a few of the bolt action rifles from World War One were actually that good. Oh, this poor bastard. But yeah, they were actually that good that a lot of them, or just variants of them, were used during World War II for similar purposes. Oh, almost in cover. I just got it. Yeah, here I had my squad mate and real life mate Guppy giving me some backup, basically playing the role of my spotter, but it was hard because I didn't have a headset at the time. He would kind of fire from that bastard still hiding up on the rock, and somehow I managed to get to enough cover to lay down suppressive fire and return. And with that suppressive fire, he just couldn't get any more hits off on us. I was pretty suppressed myself at the start, and I just get that lucky hit in. Yeah. And that's sorry. Oh, so sorry for him. He had me all lined up and everything. Again, sometimes it's good to just take a break, but the tanks are so damn quiet, you just can't hear them. So this time I decided that that guy was my main target. He was too much of an issue for my team. I spawned in a specific spot to take a shot at him, but just after I get him, I got too. Oh well, at least I got the bastard. The random weather system makes it pretty interesting. Like sometimes you can have a full-on sandstorm, or just a half sandstorm, or an overcast day like this, and it sort of changes your visibility amount. If you're patient and have a good eye, you can still sort of see through even the worst sandstorm to some degree, but you will have trouble hitting most targets or many things at range. Oh, somehow that bullet just dropped over the edge and I got him. I started reloading my gun here and I just saw that guy over there, so I quickly cancelled the reload, take him out, finish that reload off. Using my K-bullets to try and annoy the tanks, damage them, or distract them from my teammates at least. And then I realised that I actually did get the attention of the tanks and they were coming for me, so I used a spot flare to help myself out in the close range, but I accidentally tried to throw a grenade there instead of switching weapon. I managed to get him at least, and then I was feeling pretty trapped in here and I didn't know what to do. Somehow I managed to get him, and then fucking boom, so close. Should have had him. The game was getting pretty close to finishing at this point, so I just really wanted to not die too many more times, and we'd pretty much lost. There wasn't much we could do to actually win at this point, so I didn't want to waste my life trying that. Sometimes your KD is more important than the team. I mean, not always, but it does count sometimes. However, I still made a bit of a mistake and really should have picked a better spot to spend the rest of the game, because I was standing right in the open, too suppressed to return fire, and he got me and I just had to get out of there. But here I made a sillier decision and stood right in the open, so literally just before the game ended I got another death. Ended up 28 for 11 because of that, but that's not too bad, I don't think. I've had better games, but that one was on record. I didn't have everything on record. Go ahead and analyse all of my playing and that, and learn as much as you can from it. I'm sorry I couldn't explain all of it completely, but here's a few clips anyway. This was one of my longest shots in the game. It took me quite a few shots to actually sight in the distance. Quite a few shots to even actually get the kill after I had the distance set. It can be pretty hard when you have to unscope after each shot to
we have lost objective
use the bolt. And yeah, the marksman bonus you get as points is the distance, so here I got a 436 meter shot. Some of the guns are straight pull, which means you can actually stay scoped while firing, but they're a bit different as well. Every gun has a different amount of damage and how quickly it drops. A Again, sometimes firing straight through cover is the best way to sort an enemy out. Always remember to keep an ear out for the warnings of enemies taking your objectives, or watch your map. I mean, your teammates have to spot people for you to actually be able to see them on the map. That poor bastard throwing a grenade just popped his head up. And that's something else that a scout should do. The spotting function is a little bit dodgy, but it does help out. I reckon it should last a bit longer personally, because it seems that by the time you've spotted the enemy, you've disappeared off the map before your teammates can even really respond to it. One of the features I didn't show off was the spotting scope, which is one of the extra items a sniper can use, and it just assists with spotting as well as doesn't give away the scope glint, so that you're not open to enemy sniper fire yourself. Again, it'd be more useful if the spotting function actually lasted longer. When you use the spotting scope though, it does give an outline of the person or vehicle, whereas when you just spot them with your rifle, it doesn't actually give the outline, it just marks them on the map and gives a little red marker if they're in view, like that one there. A good way to counter snipe effectively is to keep your gun down or even away at times, so that you don't actually have that scope glint shining yourself, and always remember to relocate after a few shots. That was something that snipers throughout time have done. I started to get so frustrated with this guy, I just couldn't believe I wasn't actually hitting him. Even that shot, I don't know how that missed, but you know, whatever, fucking bullshit. And this guy, poor bastard, should have had me, but got turned right around. And then thought I was pretty screwed here, because that tank started rolling in on me. So I decided I'd try and do as much damage as I could to it before it took me out. I didn't notice that bomber flying in over me though, and just in time he saved the fuck out of my life. Couldn't believe that, but then I forgot to check behind me and it was all for nothing anyway. Yeah, here's a clip from my mate Guppy. He gets a very nice long shot here. It's about 400 meters from memory, I think. Uses this first one just to test the distance, and I was sitting right next to him at the time, and when he takes his second shot I was saying, nah, you gotta shoot higher, it's not gonna hit. But he proved me wrong, and good on him. As I've said a few times, laying down can be one of the worst things that you can do when you're facing an enemy sniper, but if you can put them under enough suppressive fire, they won't be able to get an accurate enough shot off anyway. I'm personally a fan of iron sights on bolt actions, so I do like the rifleman classes, but the extreme distances that this map has really require telescopic sights at sometimes. Here the cablets were pretty handy, and I managed to actually blow that up. But yeah, in close range or medium range, the iron sights are very handy. You can get shots off a lot quicker without having to re-aim. But at longer ranges, you do just need it.
Taken objective Edward.
And I seem to notice that those two buildings are the one that I'm on now, again, and the one over where I was are two of the main buildings in the town. You usually find people on them. I think this is one of the buildings that I was sniping people off from over in the rocks. And again, just using the spot flares here to assist my teammates rather than myself.
We are losing objective.
They can be used both ways. You do get the assist points when you use them the other way. The cablets don't do much damage against heavy tanks, as I've said. Again, if you've got a team of you and anti-tank grenades, you can do a bit of damage to them, but it's more of just an annoyance. You usually want to get out of there and not really spend too much time on it. Don't put yourself in the open where you're going to die, because it's not worth it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves and learned something. Have a good one, and I'll see you when I see you.